In the previous video, we discussed the multiplier effect in tourism. Money brought by tourists into the destination generates economic activity in the region and in the country. And everything looks so very positive about economic impacts over the regional economy. But in fact, economic impacts cannot be only positive, but negative as well. Let's talk about it. In this video, we are going to talk about positive and negative economic impacts of tourism. And of course, we'll think about the adequate measures in order to avoid or to minimize the negative economic impacts of tourism. Tourism contributes in four major spheres of the national economy: income, balance of payments, employment, regional economic development. Of course, this contribution is closely related to the national economic policy and to the place of tourism in it. Let's follow the standard process. So basically, the process of getting positive economic impacts from tourism can be like this. It started by government intervention with advertising of a destination and financing infrastructure. Then it is followed by the increase in employment in secondary and tertiary activities. Next, there is an increase in tourists spending money in hotels, bars, restaurants and souvenir shops. As a result, local businesses and farmers increase profits. And then businesses expand into the other potential regional areas. At last, local government receives higher tax revenue to invest in education, healthcare and infrastructure. So tourism is a useful tool for economic development for governments because of a number of benefits it may offer. Number one, foreign exchange generator. Tourism is sometimes called an invisible export. Tourists who come to this or that country buy a touristic experience and pay for it with their money they have earned in their native country. Number two, employment. Tourism is a labor-intensive industry. It creates 1.5 jobs indirectly. Number three, tourism generates tax revenues. Governments receive significant tax revenues as a result of the business sales, employment and labor income provided by the generated tourism economic activity. Number four, tourism provides entrepreneurial opportunities. Tourists need a great variety of different services and different activities, and local businesses have a great chance to provide them with all this. And in turn, this can be followed by the extra indirect entrepreneurial opportunities. Number five, another aspect is the development of the rural regions. Actually, there are two aspects of this case. There are so many types of tourism motivation and types of traveling that we can easily think about something new, some new entertainment in the rural regions. For example, we can think of some farm trips or ecological trips. Another aspect is that we can take, for example, income from the well-developed destination and provide it to the rural regions in order to make the economic development of the country's territory more smoother. Number six, tourism promotes other industries, especially in service sectors. For example, we can think about banking sector, we can think about insurance, we can think about excursions, we can think about car rental or tourism equipment rental, etc. So actually, positive economic impact is more or less clearly seen. But there is also negative economic impact. Let's get acquainted with it. So, among the negative economic impacts of tourism, we can mention inflation. Increases in price of land, houses, food and commodities is as a result of when tourists place extra demands on local services at a destination. Opportunity costs. It's engaging in tourism rather than another form of economic activity. In a coastal area with a predominantly rural farmland, opportunity costs refer to investing in tourism instead of in farming, market gardening, or fishing. Overdependence on tourism. Over time, the emphasis on tourism becomes such that there is virtually no other approach to development. As a result, the country becomes dependent on tourism revenue to the extent that any change in demand is likely to lead to a major economic crisis. Enclave tourism. Tourism enclaves contain a large number of facilities for tourists, while access to locals is often restricted and regulated. It results in a lack of local control and local ownership and prevention of meaningful interactions between residents and tourists. Seasonality. Seasonality has been recognized as one of the most typical features of the tourism industry. It is usually seen as a negative phenomenon and is treated as a problem. Economic problems are related to the loss of profit due to the insufficient use of resources, low returns on capital, difficulties with employment. Socio-cultural and ecological problems include congestion, overcrowding, significant increases in the cost of community services, noise, increased crime due to a higher number of people. Seasonal character of jobs. Seasonality affects any tourism and hospitality human resource practices, and it is often held responsible for the seasonal employment, underemployment, and unemployment. Some resorts have a very short season lasting 4 to 5 months, while create challenges for human resource managers. Leakage. Leakage of tourism revenue is broadly concerned with the failure of tourism spending to remain in the destination economy. We can also say that leakage is the portion that leaks into import. It can be caused by money spent on imported equipment, materials, capital, and other imported consumer goods or services to provide for the requirements of international tourists. Prostitution and the underground economy. These are typical results of tourist activity and concentration of foreigners on some territory. Of course, a destination needs to think of some responses to the negative impacts. Among them, we can mention the following. Reduce leakage as much as possible. Ensure that the benefits from tourism are spread as wide as possible over the host community. Be sure that tourists pay for a fair price. Protect local businesses and provide them with more opportunities. Provide financial training and other techniques for local ownership and management in the field of tourism activity. Expand the variety of tourism activity in the destination. So, today we have learned 4 major areas of the national economy tourism contributes in. Positive and negative economic impacts. Responses to the negative economic impacts.